Another joyful read from Reddit in this video. I find it to be a constant source of education on relationships, the dark side of reality and women. Whether one resists the red pill or not, stories like this are not things to be ignored. The more these stories can be promoted, shared and understood, the better for all men. To be honest, I would say the better for all women too, as I don't know anybody who would envision this story to be one that they would wish to star in. There is a number of tropes in this post. Things we see time and time again. I will highlight these as we read through. The title of the post is excellent as it really showcases the poster's anguish in this situation in one clear sentence. The post is entitled, "Childhood Sweetheart Sexpot Turned Obese Sexless Man-Hating Wife." The post begins, "So we, a man aged 40 and a woman aged 40 rather just anticlimactically celebrated our 10-year anniversary. And have two gorgeous very bright little boys, aged 5 and 2. End quote. First typical trope, he has two young children, he is stuck in this situation, he is financially on the line now. He has the risk of affecting his children in a negative way now should he wish to leave. What is an anniversary if it is celebrating a time that was great and worth remembering while the present is awful in comparison? Also noteworthy here is his age, he is in his sexual market value prime at 40, she is post-wall at 40 already." He continues, "She is my life and I love her, but I'm aware that is finally starting to drain away. I think it mostly has for her a long time ago. Where to start? This may be cathartic. We met at high school age 11. Technically we met age 3 at nursery, but we don't remember that, but you get the idea. We've been and shared the same close friends since." End quote. Not a trope, but it is a shame that all their friends are mutual. This also ties him to her in a way. He continues, "I had a long-term partner when I was age 14 to 17, she had one when she was age 16 to 17, we lost our virginities to these people. Our relationship deepened through our teens and we were real close. We even knew we were in love but were just friends." End quote. This seems like something just out of a romantic comedy. You can see the appeal for both of them. Neither thought about what happens after the credits roll, however. He goes on, "Until that first kiss, and a first wild night of 5 times. We were both mind-blown. Back then we were both highly sexed. Her more so or more confidently so than me. She'd want it, a lot. In risky places too, like in public, school, outdoors, and thinking back, within earshot of our parents. It was wild, heady, passionate times. That is trope 2, a highly sexed relationship. Nothing can last forever, and if the relationship had such major sparks so early on, I would imagine it would fade fairly quickly. This must have been addictive for him, the constant sex, the constant chemical doses of oxytocin, the great mental health ruses following sessions. It's easy to see why this seduces so many men, changing their perceptions so easily." He goes on, "Age 18 we headed for separate universities. One of our couple friends engaged at this time. It was on my mind too. She had said she would say no if I asked because she didn't think I was serious. We both had self-doubt and confidence issues. Separate social lives was difficult. When together we were still very wild, loving, passionate, close, but I suspected, and would have supported had it been open, unfaithfulness. I was lonely." End quote. So at this early stage, like most men in their late teens to early 20s, he is emotionally desperate for companionship. This isn't his fault as this is the norm, but I wanted to pause here as we have our next trope coming up, and I wanted just highlight that at this point in the past he already felt lonely and had confidence issues. Trope 3. I will continue the quotation of the article to showcase this trope. Continuing on. My wife later said she felt invalidated growing up. She said no one would look at me, and so she ended up sleeping with half of the men in her university hall. I don't remember the total, but I think it was 4 to 6 guys in a couple of months that she told me about. Trope 3 is a woman with a very high bed count. She is supposed to be with him at this point, it seems. It's clear this woman wouldn't make a good wife. The post continues. I made a friend. I had started sleeping with my new friend. This came out after a few months. Me and my wife had a massive argument. My wife at the time was giving it up to anyone who asked, including people she would have me hang out with. I could tell they had slept with her from the look in their eyes. It fried my head and broke my heart. While I was also being unfaithful, I felt it was partly out of sorrow and loneliness. She was just being promiscuous. End quote. He tries to justify his behavior, but he should have just left her. She was causing him such turmoil and suffering, and he had another woman interested in him. The friends do not seem like true friends either. The post goes on. It also turned out she'd let an older guy have her during an academic summer school thing during the summer before university. The filth or naivety and betrayal of that still hurts now. He still messages her on Facebook every so often. Obviously, this was all too much. She begged and begged, but I couldn't fathom it. She didn't accept it, so months followed of psycho behavior. I ended up together with the new friend. My wife and I still had all these mutual friends, and nights out at Christmas could be tricky or emotional. 5 years pass and she's had 3 to 4 proper boyfriends and few casuals along the way here and there. My relationship with the friend becomes a steady thing and we live together for 4 to 5 years, but eventually this wanes as we grow up. This ends relatively neat and matter-of-factly as I turn about 24. During this time there are probably 2 to 3 years where my now wife and I are busy with our lives and hardly speak. Then we reconnected and could be civil again, and then we're speaking again. Then we were in love again and still are really. We are older and more serious about it this time. End quote. At this point I do think this particular man is very weak and desperate for a woman regardless of who and the red flags. He shows this as much in the next part. He goes on. The old discretions are forgiven but not forgotten. I saw her unfaithfulness as worse than mine. She claimed she's repented and changed, saying that the leopard has changed its spots. She sees mine worse than hers because hers was just physical. Personally, I think this balances out. Anyway, we put it behind us as having had our fun and been given the blessing of another chance. I'm keen on some ground rules. I suggest let's go open. I do this primarily to guard my own heart from her lying to me again. But also out of a sense of that we are both red-blooded people and life is long, why not be practical and grown up about it? She's having none of it. Other rules we talk about are active sex forever and naked time. End quote. She's in total control here, I can see it in the story throughout. I can only wait with a little bit of glee to see how she abuses this control. He continues. Now at about 25 we get together. We and all our friends are again very happy. As some of her friends marry off in their mid to late 20s to older guys, she becomes insulted that I've not asked her yet. For me, this is where the rot starts. I lost her here, and anything else since then just loses her more. I obviously wanted to ask her, but I felt I had some work to do. She is more privileged than I am. She's still at uni because bank of mum and dad could support whatever she needed. I felt like I needed to have a house to offer before I could propose. Stupid or old-fashioned perhaps. I buy one, but it's a wreck and I'm fixing it up, and it's now a gorgeous pad on Airbnb. End quote. What is she offering here? Why does he have to provide all this value compared to her? This man is very blue-pilled. It goes on. Now the issue has come up, it's killing the romance, and she's turning off the sex. I can't propose and have it look like it's simply in response to her telling me to, or can I? A little time passes, I plan a stroll to a very special lovers lookout we both know. She raises the argument again, and the moment creating ability ruined for another while. Anyway, we get through it, he proposes and she accepts, but sex has suffered during this time. Living at respective parents' places, no longer being so crazily uninhibited, having scorned her dream of being proposed to when she wanted, shop was no longer so open. Trope 4, the sex goes. Why stay? What is on offer here now? She is only making his life a misery at this point. Continuing on. She enjoyed arranging her wedding. I'd have enjoyed arranging it too, but I was only really invited as a component. There was no sensitivity to this on her part. A rather an unequal affair. I finished the house so we could move in. She was now at another uni again though, and having fun while I worked and made us a home. End quote. A third university. I imagine she was sleeping around here with some professors or other students based on her past behavior. What exactly is she studying is the question I want answering. It goes on. So that was 10 years ago. It's not all been bad, but gradually the sex actually stopped. It may have been a couple years in I started to really feel it, and I've worked hard on it. On me, on my attitude and worldview. I've been through a long period of mourning our sex loss. We saw a marriage counselor about 4 years in. Things kinda came to a head because wife was being horrible, she was talking me down in public. I'm not a bad guy, not bad on the eye, and I'm often told, practical, good father, reasonably successful, conscientious worker and lover, good cook, masseurs. I love to please. Generally, and in bed, and I think it's fair to say I'm alright at it. I always provide orgasms. I love going down. I know what to do. I didn't deserve her condescension. Trope 5, the abuse, the talking down in public, him being obsessed with giving value and being somebody who loves to please. Onwards it goes. Things really broke down when I saw a property that I felt could make us, and she wasn't game. To me, it would create a dream home and would be worth 6 times what we'd pay for it, and would be how I could best realize my skills and value in my lifetime. She didn't want to live in project. Fast forward and we now live in the underground terraced house she chose, which has no value potential and is also a live-in project. End quote. What a disaster. I have no sympathy for him here, he has no control and he is paying for it. Continuing on. The counseling helped me rationalize, but she didn't like it. The counselor asked about why I wasn't living out what I wanted and compromising for my family, so I bought a Jeep. I've been a reader of Reddit for years. Also all sorts of personal development and guidance on various aspects of life. I try not to jump the gun. I'm overall mostly minded to be grateful for what I have. I know being single isn't great, I want my wife. End quote. Being single is incredible. Being married to somebody who is abusive, doesn't want sex, drains your time, energy, money and resources isn't great. It goes on. I've been doing well at work, winning national awards, but a new toxic boss changes things and leaves me burnout. I get signed off for 6 weeks and find another, better job. Damage is further done though. I guess she has seen me as weak in the face of that new boss, and further dislikes that I take the new job on a 4 not a 5-day basis to allow myself to bring my weekend business more into the fore. She doesn't like or respect the fluidity and creativity of my business. A couple of years pass and I'm now running a small startup and it's doing well. I notice as I look back that she's become a bit man-hating. It's like I'm wrong for liking sexy things. Like it's my fault that sexy things even exist. That I should have grown up and away from wanting a sex life. That it's just so wrong how sexualized the media is. This is the girl who used to wear G-strings, travel to visit me in just a coat, stockings and heels, be a screamer, and loves, not that she'd admit it, having her ass massaged for hours. End quote. Trope 6, she hits the wall and resents it. She resents that her prime is past her. This is so typical. Continuing on. I've always wanted kids. It's been a problem for me to have not had them before I was 30, I didn't want to be too old relative to them. She's not ready when I want them, but then all of a sudden at age 34 she is. Sex restarts. While it lasts it's good too, not forced or particularly mechanical. A few weeks pass. She becomes pregnant. The sex stops. I find myself working long hours at a residential place and allow a massage accident to happen with promiscuous Japanese women. We have our first child. She takes to motherhood stressfully and now begrudges working full-time. The Japanese woman is weaving her way into everyone in the area's lives, laying it on not just with me but with others. Meanwhile my wife has put on weight. Trope 7, the wife pulls the fat grenade. Also, parenthood is not as fun as it was previously depicted. Continuing on. Sex at home is non-existent. We move house with a 6-month-old baby and a business startup and a stalker. It could not be much more stressful really. Around this time in one of our arguments she headbutts me and busts my nose. Looking at what had become of us at that time was upsetting. I'm not sure if this was before or after she finds messages from the Japanese girl and I come clean about the accident and subsequent stalking, probably before. I wondered if I'm being abused. It's not physical, but she's verbally violent. She knows only yelling. In relation to the Japanese woman, my wife is naturally mighty upset, but in many ways it's a relief the Japanese girl has been shamed into backing off. I realize I could lose her, but don't think that would be proportionate. It was accidental, regretted, and against a backdrop of acknowledged neglect. She lost weight on an antenatal program. She returns to work, gets broody again, same as last time. Except this time she stays as big post-pregnancy as she was during. Like, getting so fat she's now fat in the face fat. And sex is now B3-6 months apart. I no longer initiate sex. The years of rejection has killed me inside. I don't even want it. Who wants to hump someone who doesn't want to be there? None with self-respect. I start to look on it all and can't understand it. Over the years she says I'd like to want it and such stuff. But what I can't understand is, even if I didn't want it and she did, I'd care enough about her to provide some. I can't imagine not. I can't imagine how she can lack even such basic care, given who we were and what she was and what I was led to understand I was signing up for in no uncertain terms. I don't beg. I don't pressure. I prepare a carefully worded explanation of my feelings and observation on the situation's detrimental effect on our relationship for our lives and those of our children. I wait weeks for a sensible, positive, constructive time to raise it where we have time to talk after if she wants. She agrees to see a counselor again. We see a counselor last year. She gets to choose which. She doesn't like her and her views. I begin to learn that she's checked out of the relationship though. Trouble is it's like she hasn't even realized this herself. We're coming up to 10 years marriage. We're all amicable. No fights really these days, but kinda separate lives being parents in the same house aggrieved at each other. I think I'm open to debate, analysis, change. She just seems to think I do nothing, which is crazy. I do as much if not more, and I'm not angry about it. Given it's 10 years coming up, on a spur of the moment, I write a written suggestion of vows to reaffirm and hand it to her UN premeditated. They are respectful and I say they are just a suggestion. They quote our original vows and the readings she prepared. They are romantic. On receipt no offense or insult seemed to be caused. An oh and a hug maybe. They were then left on the floor in the bedroom in the dust next to her slippers and hairdryer for a few weeks. They were never raised again. I guess I'm hurt. Our anniversary comes and goes with an exchange of simple cards. Without lockdown we may have taken a week's holiday abroad, and I expect there would have been some sex, but as it is, there isn't. I've realized some months ago I can make sense of how she behaves towards me if I accept she just suffers my presence. Something the last counseling said was to watch out for contempt in a relationship. She holds me, anything I'm into, and the house we share in contempt. I have invested so much. We love our kids. Both of our parents are still together and we share many of the same friends. There is huge shame to consider if we were to break up. I don't want to break up. But neither do I want to live an unfulfilled, unhappy life with someone who says I make her unhappy. Nor do I want to be broken up with and get screwed over. I am very sure that is the angle and attitude she would take. A friend is going through it at the moment and the man-hating vitriol has upped a notch and the girls all seem to be taking notes on how to do a divorce. I feel like I should start recording everything in case I need to rely on it. All the crazy rants, the yelling at the kids, the state of the house, the daily routines where I do so much more of the childcare and house chores. I'd ask how can I win her back, but I don't think this is an option. We could /might survive the 5th of October, 2015 years as our kids grow up, and mellow into our cohabitation and grow old together. I just don't feel it's right to give up so much on life. And I'm afraid we're already finished and away she just hasn't realized yet, but that she's vicious and if I'm not careful she'll be angling for me draw a short straw, and having parental backing and a safe career, she'll win and I'll never recover. There's so much more I could add, obviously, but if you've read this far, I think I've said more than enough already and I hope I made sense. And thank you. End of the post. What chaos this man has made of his life. Think of an alternative where he never got back together with her, never had children with her, bought the house he wanted. Think of that, think of how happy he would have been. Thanks for watching.